watching a beginner's guide to video editing in Photoshop with Tracy Marr. In this lesson, let's take a look at animating and doing crazy things with some text. So let me create a new layer here and let me add some text. So we'll just go with our usual hello, and I'll just make that white and a little bit bigger. Okay, so when you have text on your timeline, you can see that if I open up the options here, there's a text warp option. So you saw already that you have transform, opacity and style. All of these can be applied to text, but you can also do fun things with the text warp property here. So I'm clicking on the keyframe icon here, so it's added the first keyframe. I'm going to move my slider up here to around the midway point, and I'm going to add another keyframe. So I'm going to click on the type tool here. You can press T. Once that's clicked, you'll see there's an option here for warping the text. Let me select that, and you have various preset options here. So I'm going to choose the, I'm going to choose the fisheye, and I'm going to click OK. So it looks to me like if I play this back that the text sort of bellies out into a sort of a fisheye view. And the speed at which that happens will depend on how far apart your keyframes are. So because this footage hasn't rendered, it's kind of slow and sluggish, but once it reaches the end, it should render pretty quickly and we can see what's happening. Okay, so the text is bellying out. As I said, you can pull that keyframe back and it will happen a lot faster. So let me rewind that. Okay, so let's say you want it to go back to its original state. That's also easy. We can select a point, we'll make it here, we'll add another keyframe, and we'll simply go into the text warp option here and choose none. Okay, so this in theory now should sort of belly out and then reach a point and go back in. Okay, so you can see your text is animated in that way, and of course you can add any of the options here. I've just chosen the fisheye as an example. You can also continue to apply shadows and all sorts of text effects to your type as normal. So you can have this sort of pressed effect if you wanted, and it will animate the effect that you apply to it. Okay, so as I mentioned, you can still, let me delete the effect there, you can still add the opacity and transform options. So let's work with the transform and we'll make the text grow at the same time. So let's click on the keyframe and let's make the text very, very small. I'm just going to hit Control T for convenience and shrink it down. So it's going to start very, very small. I'm just going to pop it here to the middle of the canvas. And I'm going to move up and add another keyframe just about here. And let's make that grow somewhat. Okay, so I'm going to move along and add another keyframe. And I'm going to make that grow even more. And finally we'll pop one keyframe in at this point and have this grow. So I'm not sure what's going to happen here, so let's rewind and see. Okay, so that's pretty cool. The text is growing and it's also curving and it's flattening out, and then it's going to start to get bigger and it's fixed at its end point. Okay, so that's how you animate text. You can have text on as many tracks on the timeline here as you like, and you can animate them all. So you can do some pretty interesting kinetic typographic effects inside Photoshop. In the next lesson, I'll show you how you can zoom and pan.